Hello, we hope you're doing well. Welcome back to our esports news episode. We hope you guys all enjoy. As always, all today's stories will be timestamped down below. And as usual, let's get into it. And first off in CSGO news, of course, this past weekend, our Face It Major did conclude, and spoiler alert coming in here for the results for all of you guys who somehow did not see our major champions. It will be Astralis this year, our Face It Major champions, in kind of some anticlimactic fashion. It could be said one of the poorer majors out there we've seen so far, but it's kind of sad to say because Astralis was just so dominant throughout the entire playoffs. If you guys did choose that or actually saw that as well, they did not lose a single map throughout the entire thing. They sweep FaZe, they sweep Liquid, and they sweep Na'Vi in the finals in some very dominant fashion, guys. They remain undefeated on Nuke. I think the scoreline there was 16-6 on Nuke and 16-9 on Overpass over Na'Vi, who also look very dominant, guys. They sweep Big Clan in dominant fashion. They also beat MIBR very dominantly. We thought this final was going to be amazing. It was still very fun to watch and to see the most dominant team at the major by far and away be Astralis, be named your major champions. But besides that, a bit anticlimactic as it wasn't the best playoffs we've ever seen so far in CSGO. But nonetheless, guys, Astralis does take our Face It Major champion title, and they do so very, very impressively. It's just kind of sad to see people doubt the run itself, because the major was kind of boring to watch, not gonna lie, especially based off last major. We had FaZe and Cloud9 going to a couple overtimes on Inferno in that grand final matchup, the last map as well. It was a lot different this major round, but still nonetheless very well deserved, and the roster shuffle will begin. We've actually had a few announcements ever since I last saw you guys, the first of which will be Flusha, very surprisingly off the Fnatic roster. It'll be Scream to stand in for Flusha at ESL New York for that Fnatic roster. We're gonna see how well they do with Scream inside there. The first time Scream steps away from a French roster for the first time in 4 years, but the first time Flusha steps away from an all-Swedish roster in 6 years, and he will be joining Cloud9 as announced a couple days ago, guys. He has now officially announced his spot in Cloud9 as a stand-in for Blast Pro Series Istanbul. We're going to see how well this goes, and to no huge shocker, but unfortunately enough, it will be Sticko out of that roster. It was actually Sticko who signed to that roster for a few months, and I think Istanbul was going to be his last tournament. He actually took to Instagram to post that as well. He is now officially off that Cloud9 roster with some big changes as well, guys, coming soon. And also, very lastly, of course, we do have to touch on this, the Face It Major announcement. It was actually leaked out there to be a huge announcement coming to CSGO, apparently going to direct CSGO, impact directly CSGO itself, and be a huge change to the game. Unfortunately enough, it was not. It actually ended up being Face It Leagues. If you guys heard about this, pretty much going to be a feeder league, at least to what we think so far. There was a small trailer released. I'll link it down below for all of you, but it was very anticlimactic as Face It did announce a huge CSGO announcement. Nonetheless, for any pro players out there to build their way through, it's kind of like ESEA. ESEA does their build system, ESEA Advanced to Mountain Dew League to Pro League. It does think assuming right now, FaZe is going to do a similar thing with a Face It League, then maybe a Face It Mountain Dew League, similar kind of thing, and then feed into ECS. So either way, though, some big announcements coming soon, and hopefully more roster shuffles do continue. And plenty of qualifiers do continue for, of course, Dota 2 all around the world. This one, actually, first we're going to talk about an open North American qualifier. You probably should already know, right when I say open North American qualifier, there's going to be some sort of issues out there. It actually was an open qualifier for North America for ESL Hamburg coming up later in October. And on top of that, it's actually a team who did take to Reddit to complain about another team who was abusing the pause rule. Now, they also posted screenshots about this. It was pretty miraculous. The other team got away with this in the first place. Throughout the 60-minute game, the near 60-minute game, they paused 7 times. Alongside that, 3 of those pauses were actually followed by Doze before Hose being spammed in the chat itself. The team was not disqualified until the Reddit post, of course, blew up. So luckily enough, thank you to Reddit for having this addressed, but a classic ESL admin mistake there, as this team somehow pauses 7 times within the span of about 35 minutes of that game and does not get DQ'd during the game, but a Reddit post blowing it up then results in that being DQ'd. But nonetheless, I guess the situation was resolved, so congrats to ESL who took to Reddit with that response. But also, very lastly as well, we've seen a few surprises out there in some qualifiers. You know, a lot of brand new teams out there following, especially for Kuala Lumpur. The biggest surprise I think so far is PPD joining NIP and then making their first major. It's a great surprise, alongside teams like Furzy who make a miraculous run. But also on top of that, some more tragic, sad stories out there. That's actually Mineski. Mineski, of course, losing Jabs, Ice. They are now continuing to struggle. They failed to make Kuala Lumpur. They lost to some lower tier Asian teams there, and now continuing to do so. And in Dream League Season 10 qualifier, another open qualifier, and they actually fall short to a couple teams there. The first of which that actually knocked them out, going to be Boom ID, an Asian team over there who knocked them out in a best of 3 and knocked them out of the open qualifier. A couple other teams they actually did lose to, though, were SG Dragons, and alongside that, it's also going to be Team Tigers. That was in the Kuala Lumpur qualifiers. This team has definitely been struggling. If you guys have been keeping an eye on them, I'm not even sure where the exact problem is. People say Mushy, I say maybe JT. He was definitely the biggest question going into this roster, coming from definitely a lower tier team out there. They continue to struggle morale-wise, structure-wise, and some changes are expected likely for Mineski in the future, because throughout this DPC circuit, if they can't qualify for any tournaments out there, there's going to be some obvious issues. So Mineski changes may be coming soon, but also very excitingly, guys, as we do vastly approach our first major. And in huge Fortnite news, guys, it's not actually the fall skirmish. We'll talk about those results in a bit here, but a huge announcement as well as a huge update has officially been posted this past weekend for Fortnite, and those are finally spatial sound adjustments. If you guys have been playing the game for the past, 3 to 4 months, a long time now, it's always been very hard directionally to hear where players are compared to you, especially above and below. Of course, many games out there have no problems with directional sound because there's not many games out there where people can build below and above you so frequently and by such high degrees. When you play your Call of Duties or your CSGOs or other games out there, the spatial sound is always directed to your left or your right. Fortnite's kind of a unique game out there, so adjusting these spatial sounds, we definitely gave them their leeway, and Epic has now responded, guys, with a huge update adjusting these spatial sounds, not only above and below you, those players, as well as directional sounds for firing, for farming, as well as on top of that, building and also gliding. So some huge adjustments, guys, have now gone live into the game, and this is a big step. Of all the updates we've seen so far, besides the drum gun being removed, this is definitely one of the biggest updates we have seen in Fortnite's history, and definitely a great one. We will see how accurate it really is, how it actually plays out as well for spatial sound adjustments, but nonetheless, this is definitely a move in the right direction for a game out there, which is definitely unique when it comes to these sounds. On top of that, though, of course, in biggest news, week 1 skirmish has concluded, guys. The results on screen for all of you. We saw some decent surprises. Actually going to be Vape Jesus alongside Zex actually taking your first victory, your first place prize there. A big surprise, not too surprising though to see people like Bizzle and DMO alongside the Liquid Boys, 72 and Chap in 4th place, rounding out your top 5 there. But it was actually Vape and Zex taking some dominant kills throughout the entire thing, looking very dominant. They didn't show them too much, I think probably because the name itself is not very good for promotion. That's why they didn't get too much airtime, but then again, they were the most dominant duo throughout the weekend, deserved that #1 victory. Some surprises though, besides 72 and Chap actually taking your most of limbs and that 50k extra prize themselves, their teammates, Not Vivid and alongside Poach, really expected to do very well. They were luckily enough on that same team, and again, people expected them to at least place top 10, if not top 5, or even win the thing, and they don't even place top 20. So that was a definite surprise, probably the biggest surprise of the weekend for seeing Poach and Not Vivid not do too well. But on top of that, it's still a great weekend, guys. We now have our first standings, our first week standings, guys, with the Bush Bandits in the lead there. Going to be cool to see how these standings do progress, as we of course have these groups randomly selected. A quick reminder for all of you guys who are following the skirmish series as well, only a few select players from each group can actually go to these competitive events, but all players in each group can actually play the trial periods, the trial events throughout the week. So we're going to see how those do, and of course we'll break those down on Wednesday or Fridays as well, and then on Mondays we'll break down the weekend, of course, the competitive events. But week 1 skirmish is done, guys, and the Bush Bandits are out to a hefty lead. And also, of course, in huge League of Legends news, guys, we are now officially 1 week away from Worlds play-in stages, at least to begin. I cannot wait. It's going to be very exciting, and some decent draws did come out this weekend. If you guys are following the group draws, for all you Cloud9 fans out there, G2 fans, I think both those groups have some decent draws and definitely decent chances to actually make it through. If you guys are not aware, we actually have 12 teams. We have 4 groups of 3 for that play-in stage, and the first and second place teams will go through to the top 8, and those first place teams will play a random second place team in a best of 5. But throughout the play-in stage, in those 4 groups of 3, it's going to be double round robin best of 1. So again, some upsets are definitely going to happen likely in those groups, and those top 8 teams do go through. The 4 first place teams will play a random second place team in a best of 5. So it can be cool to see which teams do make it through. Again, I do expect Cloud9 to have a chance here, as well as G2 have really good draws, and we're going to see how that works out against their main stage teams. Those groups have also been drawn for the 3rd year in a row. We see RNG and Gen.G, their rosters meet up in the same exact group. I don't know if I feel bad for one of those teams or if I feel bad for the 3rd team in there right now, that being Vitality. They'll be joined by, of course, a 4th place team coming from the play-in stage, but nonetheless, not looking too good for whoever's in that group of death, which does seem to be the primary group of death right now. Alongside that, Liquid fans out there, I think we should be halfway rejoicing. We got LMS Team Mad alongside them. Of course, unfortunately enough, KT Rolster also in that group. I think Liquid definitely, anyone's going to give them a chance, especially North American fans like me, but an interesting draw. I'm not sure what to expect out of that group so far. Maybe we'll break that down before Friday as well. But on top of that, guys, I am so excited. We are just less than 7 days away from the World Play-In stages. And also big Overwatch news out there, the World Cup qualifiers have ended. We now have our 8 final teams for the main stage going to happen in November. I cannot wait for those teams to compete. On top of that, we didn't see too many surprises. Besides Australia, pretty much every host country sent a team through besides Thailand, so no huge surprise as it was actually France in this last Paris qualifier alongside the UK, and alongside that as well, it was the UK solidifying their second place spot, definitely deserved with a 4-0 sweep over the third place team, the Netherlands, and there was no better way to solidify the best teams going through. So those 8 teams will be going through to the main stage qualifiers in November for our Overwatch World Cup. I cannot wait. But also in bigger news, guys, the Torbjorn going to be a brand new rework. We actually had Jeff Clapton last week talk about these updates coming for heroes out there, and it will be Tor receiving some big updates. Going to be a brand new primary weapon, guys, a faster fire rate as well as a faster reload rate. His secondary weapon does the same, actually a faster fire rate. Alongside that, less of a spread. The only thing there is a slight damage nerf. On top of that, he can now throw his turret to an auto build level 2, and the biggest change so far is now new AoE damage on his Molten Core, of course his ult. He can now spit pools of magma everywhere, and it will do AoE damage. So some big reworks coming. I think there's going to be more coming soon as well. If you looked at Jeff Kaplan's post, guys, we expect more changes coming soon. I think Pharah was actually supposed to be the champion change or the hero change, and this week it was actually Tor instead. So for all you Tor mains out there, rejoice. A brand new rework is now in place, and hopefully some more things coming soon. And very lastly in Rocket League news, guys, of course we have week 3 standings now officially in. We are now down to 2 North American teams remaining undefeated. Cloud9, no surprise. Alongside G2, it's actually Team NRG suffering a convincing loss to Team EG, who now sits in 4th place. So I think we've definitely solidified our top 4 North American teams going forward. Unfortunately enough for teams like FlyQuest, they are now 0-4, and their playoff hopes are definitely dwindling, if not depleted completely, and we'll see if they can bounce back, but I don't think it's very likely. But I want to say the team I feel the worst for this week in North America was definitely Ghost Gaming. If you guys watched their matchups so far, they actually had to face against G2 and NRG this week. Both those best of 5s go to map 5, and both those map 5s finish in a 3-2 finish. The very close matches. I definitely thought they had the talent to take off one of those series. Unfortunately enough, they fall just short of taking those victories. Ghost Gaming is now 1-4, but all 4 of their losses are to the current top 4 North American teams. So that roster is definitely still promising. I hope the best for them in the future if they can make playoffs, but they definitely have to make a run to do so. But also in the European side of things, we definitely have heard some rumors out there. If you guys have heard these as well, apparently some roster changes coming mid RLCS are expected. We're not exactly sure which teams are going to see that. It's actually going to be Complexity, who split 1-1 this weekend. They win over Mouse Sports and a close loss to Vitality. No surprise as well, Dignitas and Vitality, they both go 2-0 this week. And we're going to talk about teams towards the bottom. It's going to be teams PSG apparently making a change. Alongside them, Vitality is also maybe rumored. It's actually Jesse who took the stream. If you guys did not see this clip, here's what Jesse had to say.
It's going to be a rough one. Today, it could be a very rough one. One person could literally lose his career today, I think, if he loses twice today. I'm not gonna say who it is, but yeah, definitely it's gonna be one hell of a day.
So when I first thought about this, I thought maybe PSG Pharah. When you look at PSG's current record going 1-4, they barely taking a map so far this split. Alongside that, Vitality, after a strong start, they're now split 2-2 as well. People think maybe Scrub's going to be the target of this, maybe Pasky. No rumors confirmed as of right now, but some RLCS changes are coming very soon. On top of that, though, we hope you guys all enjoy this episode of Esports News. If you guys did, feel free to leave a comment down below. We will see you all back here Wednesday with another packed episode. Also, reminder, next week we are changing up our format. We're going to split into individual esports videos, which I cannot wait to do. As always, hope you guys all enjoy. My name is Jake, and I'll see you Wednesday.